Hey everyone, it's Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Show. Hey, look, I have always said we have a great guest, phenomenal guest. I'm going to say without a doubt, this guest may be the most impactful guest in the history of the Massimo Show. When I tell you about Ronsley, you are going to be blown away and you're going to say, man, I want more. So let me tell you about Ronsley. First and foremost, he is the executive producer and host of multiple top-rated podcasts, including The Psychology of Entrepreneurship, Should I Start a Podcast, and Bon Appetit. His podcasts have been downloaded more than 5 million times. Let me repeat that, 5 million times across 133 countries. In addition, he's an award-winning audio marketing agency called Must Amplify, which has helped entertainers, government leaders, athletes, and businesses raise their voice through podcasting. He's also the founder of the globally renowned conference, We Are Podcast, and audiobook agency, The Library of Sound, in partnership with Audible Australia. Ronsley's book, Amplify, Raise Your Voice, Boost Your Brand, and Grow Your Business, has helped thousands of companies, associations, business-minded individuals expand and reach by using their podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and truly, when I say this, truly the only Ronsley Val.
Hi, this is Rod Santomassimo, and welcome to The Massimo Show. The objective of The Massimo Show is to share how you can maximize your personal, professional margin. That's right. Let's make more money in less time. Let's turn chaos into clarity, confusion into confidence, and income into real wealth. Along with sharing my insight on how I grew a multi-million-dollar professional business, we're going to bring you the expert advice from a variety of authors, consultants, and thought leaders who will provide the tools you need to maximize your own personal and professional margin. Welcome to the Massimo Show.
Ronsley, welcome to the Massimo Show.
Thanks, man. I mean, everyone asks me about my name, and I keep saying that the world is not ready for another Ronsley. It is the one and only.
It's really the one and only. Ronsley, first of all, where are you today? Where are you right now?
I'm in Dubai right now. I've been here for the last 5 days.
Okay. And when you're not in Dubai, where do you reside mostly?
I live in Brisbane, but for the last 5 months, I have been in different places from Lisbon to Philippines to Goa and Dubai for 5 different places. Yes.
Okay, Ronsley, you know I was going to ask this because I always ask this question. I love the answer. So, Ronsley, high school Ronsley. Who was high school Ronsley? What was he passionate about?
Trying everything. Rod, I would drive my parents mental because I was involved in everything. I was the captain of the debate and elocution team. I was in every possible sport. I played for the state, badminton, basketball, table tennis. For the school, I ran, I played football, anything to get out of class. I loved trying new things, from even playing the guitar, piano, to academic work and learning new things and new ideas. That was high school Ronsley. But high school Ronsley wasn't sure of himself at all. High school Ronsley was still learning that people didn't like me being unique and being so different. I didn't fit into the geek section. I didn't fit into the sportsman section. I kind of was in between both. So growing up, I think it allowed me to be myself. And the older I get, and just trying to settle into my own skin.
I've had the pleasure of personally meeting Ronsley, and I'm always transparent. Ronsley and I are both in the same coaching organization, a global coaching organization. I get coached, he gets coached, and then we had a chance to actually meet up in Miami last year. But Ronsley, when I first met you, everyone said to me, and I didn't know who you were, and they said, oh yeah, he's the podcast guy. Like, what does that mean? then I did my research and went, cheese and crackers, he is the, with a capital T-H-E, podcast guy. Oh my goodness. Ronsley, let's talk podcast. How did you first get involved in the idea of creating podcasts, understanding podcasts, leveraging podcasts? Where did it all start?
Yeah, great question. It's the inception story of learning to be the entrepreneur. My first business was a restaurant because I used to be a chef before a chef. I was a financial advisor. Before that, I was a software engineer. So I've lived a few lives in the last few years. But my first business was a restaurant. And it was a massive disaster in the sense that we did service on Saturday. On Sunday, the locks were changed. And I had to walk away from the restaurant with $478,000 of debt 3 months after being married. That was my true learning to be an entrepreneur, because I had to get myself out of this big hole that I had dug for myself. And I got a job the next day as a chef, and I decided that I couldn't obviously just keep working as a chef. So what I did was I created the Uber for chefing, but without the technology. There would be chefs that had spare time that plugged in from one end, and there would be people that wanted chefs to cook for them on a weekly basis that plugged in from the other end. And these chefs would go to their homes, cook their meals, put it in their fridge, freezer, Google Calendar based on a taste test. So they never ate anything they didn't like. And based on their goals, which was more energy, weight loss, focus, depending on what they wanted. To promote that, I started a podcast. It was called Bon Appetit. And in 4.5 months, we got to 1 million listeners. And it was in the banner section of iTunes that was going around, those 6 banners that go around iTunes next to Triple J and ABC Radio. And someone, I didn't even know how they got the graphics. And someone messaged me and said, how did you partner with Apple or iTunes? It was called back then. I said, I didn't partner with iTunes. So they sent me the screenshot, and the rest was history. Like, a whole bunch of people were like, can you help me start my podcast? And can you do it for my business? Because I want to do what you've done.
Okay, hold on. You made a big jump there, and the audience is going, wait a minute. How do you go from starting a podcast to having 1 million downloads? So what was the essence of the podcast? What was the subject matter? And did you have guests? Was it more of a Gary V approach of no guests? What was the approach?
Yeah, it was all guests. So in the last decade, over a decade now that I've been doing podcasts, I've interviewed more than 1,500 people. So I've done a lot of interviews. I love interviewing people. I love having the conversation. I love learning new things, like I mentioned earlier. So it was an interview type podcast. It was called Bon Appetit, uniting people through food. And the idea was that everyone has a food story, and everyone has this really deep connection with food. And one of my favorite questions to ask on the show was, what was your earliest and fondest memory around food? And the answers would just blow my mind. It'd never be the same. And it would have so much emotion around the answer to that question that every interview got easier. So that was the essence of the show. I know what got it to that level of notoriety. It's because I used to release 3 episodes a week, 8 a.m., Monday, Wednesday, Friday, without fail. For the first 100 episodes, that would go out on the dot at 8 o'clock. And those reps made me go to that banner section of iTunes. There's nothing else that I did special other than make sure that I was consistent and I did as many reps as I possibly could.
Okay, so consistency in the reps. And so was it the element of this consistency? Was it word of mouth? Was it the value of the guests you brought on? With combination of it all? As people listening to this and they have their own podcast or they want to start a podcast, they're wondering, what are some of the rules? There's no magic bullets. We all know that. But what are the rules of really, let's talk about that first. So someone says, hey, I want to start a podcast. And you have a podcast that says you should have a podcast. Let's talk about that podcast. You should have a podcast. How did that come about? Because people start asking about how do I do a podcast?
The idea was to show people how a podcast could really revolutionize their business, because most people think of a podcast as a content tool or a marketing tool. And I'm here to remind and change their mind that a podcast is the best business development tool that ever existed. Primarily because as a founder or someone that creates the company, one of the things that gets put on the back burner is business development conversations, making sure that business development happens, because there's other things to worry about. There's bills to pay, cash flow to worry about, team to make sure that they are happy and you don't have churn, make sure that the clients are happy, customer services is being taken care of, and business development kind of gets put on the back burner. But if we think of the podcast as a business development tool, then every conversation we have on our podcast turns out to be a business development conversation. And I can break that down if you like, but that's the whole idea of the work I do with anyone. So I guarantee ROI. When someone works with us, I'm like, you're going to get a return on your investment, because the way we set it up is you're going to get that through the conversations you have. And anything you get from the marketing and the content is just going to be gravy.
Okay. So let me play devil's advocate. People would say today, why do I need a podcast if I have X hundreds, thousands of Twitter followers, or I have a YouTube channel, or, I do TikTok? How is podcast? Is it supplemental? Is it complementary? Is it just a channel on its own? Tell me how that works.
That's a really good question, because it's going to let me clarify that today a podcast means video as well. It does not mean only audio anymore. Video is the big component. Everyone should record in video. It's just a given today. Primarily because over the last 18 months, 2 years, the social media platforms have started to prioritize video content. So if you're not recording in video, you're making one of the biggest mistakes that you possibly can today in 2023. So that's the reason why a podcast is now a video podcast. However, even if you have 1 million Twitter followers, even if you have a lot of TikTok followers, there's no form of content that can keep your audience engaged for that long than a podcast, because it's the only form of content that someone can consume while they're doing other things. Every other form of content, you got to stop what you're doing to consume it. Whether it's a book, whether it's a video, whether it's a blog post, whether it's a tweet, whether it's whatever. Audio is the only form of content that you can consume while you're doing other things, which means that someone is being exposed to your brand for at least half an hour. And that's very different to a swipe. So just put all of that in context.
What a great point. What a fantastic point. It's so true, because I listen to my podcasts while I'm walking the dog or driving somewhere, or if I'm really bored, sometimes I actually mow my own lawn. And I was like, why? I'm listening to a podcast. That's why. So you're absolutely correct. So should I start a podcast? Are there people that should not start podcasts, Ronsley?
I think more and more today, I feel that people are not thinking about what they're making. The best thing about a podcast is that it's easy to do. The worst thing about a podcast, it's easy to do. So there's a very famous stat that is very true even today, and has been true for years now, is that 2/3 of the podcasts that exist on iTunes or Spotify right now have 7 or less episodes, which means people start and then they stop because they're expecting different results. They don't know what they're doing. They'll end up kind of figuring it out along the way and kind of go, this is not worth my time. They realize there's lots of spinning plates. And that's why the strategy before you start a podcast is so important, because otherwise you're just swimming upstream. How much work do you think that's going to save you if you just get your strategy sorted? Because every rep, like if you have the wrong strategy, it's like a ship with a 1 degree change from difference from the actual destination. Over time, you're just going so far away from what you want to do because you don't have the strategy to get it right. And that's why even a business coach is so important, is because the business coach allows you to recorrect yourself in real time. And podcast, if you don't have the strategy first and you don't know where you're going, even correction along the way, because you're doing so many reps, right? Even that along the way doesn't help because you don't know where you're going. So the strategy is really important. And then also when you're doing your reps along the way, you're making sure that you're aligning with where you want to go. And that's the best part about a podcast, is that you get to recorrect yourself every time you make a rep. It's extremely powerful. And obviously I'm a big fan of it and I've seen it work. I've never seen it not work really. And it is extremely powerful if it's done right.
I think that's true with a lot of things, right? If it's done right. I mean, how many clients have you had that don't follow your protocols and then say, Ronsley, it didn't work? Yeah.
No, not many. We are very specific about when we take someone on, and we make sure that they understand what is happening. We make sure that they don't do dumb shit, because it's common, right? We're business owners learning to be podcasters. It's like the first time I tried surfing, Rod. It was a 3-hour surf lesson. And we were on the beach for the first 90 minutes. And I'm like, the water is right there. Why are you wasting my money? Why am I on the beach? Until I went into the water. And I realized, oh, that's why we were on the beach. Podcasting is the same.
That's a great analogy because I've done the surfing lessons and that's an awesome analogy. And I felt the same way, frustration. Just get in the water. And after a lot of spills, I said, let's stay on the beach. So I understand. So Ronsley, now you worked with some really incredible people. So I've told my audience, I'm a significant follower of a podcast by Gary Vaynerchuk, also known as Gary V. I invested a significant amount of money one day to spend a day with him, me and 10 folks around the world, to learn about just how I should position the Massimo group. And it was a great investment. It really was. But now I find out that this amazing podcast that I listen to all the time, he really leans on you for how to do it, how to structure. How do you work with Gary V?
We've helped him start his new podcast, Building While Flying, which is the Sasha Group podcast named after his dad. We do a lot of work with, small and medium businesses when they come in and they kind of need a podcast. In fact, when someone is like, hey, do a podcast, man, talk to Ronsley. And what was really crazy, a month ago, I was in Dubai and I've set up a whole team. I've got a whole back office in the Philippines with air conditioning and generator and internet so that there's no downtime. So they come into the office, they work 9 to 5. So I decided, I was like, I'm going to come in Dubai, check it out, and then go to the Philippines. So I took an Emirates flight from here to the Philippines, to Cebu. And on the flight, I was like, okay, let me just check out the podcast scene on the Emirates entertainment system. There were 7 podcasts, out of which 3 of them I made. That is crazy. And I sent a picture to my wife. I'm like, isn't this crazy? It's been a great ride.
That's incredible. That's amazing. So interesting. We have a lot of our listeners do outsource some to the Philippines. I outsource some of our work to the Philippines. What type of work do you outsource to the Philippines?
Anything and everything, really. They have exceptional talent. They have people coming out of university. So we hire straight out of university. We train them. It's a training that's the big gap, I think. Having the right training, because they're such amazing people. They've got such great culture that it is the training. And once they get the training sorted, they just are phenomenal. So for editing, we have editors in other parts of the world, in Scotland and US and all other places. But those people train the team in the Philippines. So they take that and they repurpose, they do the publishing, they do assistant work, they do website work, they do tech work, anything and everything that they can handle comes out of the Philippines. Yeah.
Ronsley, you're a man of many, many talents. We talk about you being a chef, software engineer, obviously podcast creator extraordinaire. But what is your strength? How do you define your strength?
I create really well and I love creating, but I can make connections that others don't see. And even I don't value, actually. When I say something, I'm just thinking, who would care? But then I hear the reaction or I see the reaction. I'm like, oh, maybe I should take this a bit more seriously. But I think what comes out of me, just because I've been involved in so many different industries and fields and I've tried so many different things, the connections that I can make, even I'm surprised when it comes out of my mouth. It's like putting something in the chat GPT and being surprised what it returns. That's Ronsley in a nutshell. So,
okay, well, good segue, Ronsley, because that's my next question. You're a creator. There are a lot of creators today, you being a software engineer, and I've seen some of the work you do on the software side, which blows my mind, that are concerned, is the right word, that AI will replace creation. AI will replace the need for folks in places like the Philippines. So we don't know what we don't know, obviously, but this is so new to everyone. But how do you see this wave of chat and AI and other tools coming along? What's your initial impression?
Upskill your people with AI. Because here's the thing, especially in first world countries, Rod, when I first went to Australia, I didn't know that people could get stressed. When someone said, I'm really stressed, I was like, I'm an engineer, right? So I just thought, I just thought stress and strain happen on a bridge. Like, I didn't know that people could get stressed. So if you see how people are getting burnt out, why are they getting burnt out? Because they're using so much of their brain power. AI can do that for you right now. And why wouldn't you let it do that for you? Because that's the difference. The difference is if you don't upskill, then you will be obsolete. And then you will say dumb shit like AI has taken my job. It's just because you've not understood how the world has evolved. It's like, I mean, now everyone has a website. Everyone is on social. There was a time where there were people that were like, I don't want to be on social. I don't want to have a website. I love word of mouth. And you see how that has changed, right? Even those people today are going to dinner with their family and clicking a selfie. Those same people. So when you think about how the world is changing, how technology is evolving, we've got to accept the fact that AI is a tool that we can use to be more efficient, to help us with our brain strain. We are worried about way too many things these days, Rod. When you think about the things that we worry about, especially in the first world, when we're sitting in an air-conditioned hotel room and worrying about whether a client is going to cancel on us, those are small problems in the grander scheme of things, because most of the population on the planet are trying to find out when they're going to eat their next meal. So when we start to break certain things down, including the fact that my ancestors did not have the opportunity to switch on a mic and say whatever they wanted to say whenever they wanted to say it. There's a lot riding on this generation. We are taught not to speak up. We are taught not to stand out. We are taught not to raise our voices. So we don't have the opportunity to refine our arguments. We never say the things. We edit the things for the world. So we don't know whether what we're saying on our arguments are just going around in our heads because we don't give our thoughts an audience. So put all of that in perspective and kind of go, well, am I scared of change? Or am I just deciding that this is a bad thing, so I'm going to find the reason and the bias to kind of go, AI is the problem? Actually, AI is not the problem. AI is so powerful that if you have the right thought and the right input, it will be so useful for you. And that's what I want people to understand more than anything else.
That was incredible, my friend. Absolutely incredible. Wow. That may have been the best minute of the Massimo show in our history. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was incredible.
I don't know what I said.
Good thing that we hit that record button like we were scared we weren't to do, right? So, Ronsley, you have so many talents. People have no idea. I'm so honored and privileged to know you. What's the easiest way for someone to get more of you? Where would you direct them?
Ronsleyvaz.com is probably the best place. wearepodcast.com. Listen to the podcast. I encourage people to listen to We Are Podcast and get an idea of what I'm trying to put on the table. And if they pick up what I'm putting down, then there are ways from there to sort of get in touch with me or get in touch with my team.
Okay. Ronsley, I can't thank you enough for your time and your knowledge. And as my audience knows, and we always say here, Ronsley just shared is an incredible insight to, how to build a podcast, how to think about AI, more so how to think about where you are in the world and how privileged we all are. So reflect and think about it, and then go out and, more importantly, do something about it. So Ronsley Vaz, thank you so much. And to everyone else, thank you for being this episode of the Massimo Show. And please share with your friends, share with your colleagues, share with your dogs. I look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.
I want to thank you for listening to this version of the Massimo Show. And please go out and share this with your friends, your colleagues. Heck, share it with your dog. Just share it. And more importantly, just give me some feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. We all grow from understanding what our audience wants to hear. So until next time, this is Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Show.